are amazing things. They hold us up, they support us, they make us strong. But bones have other uses. In the past, bones were thrown by diviners, seeking out the mysteries of the future. Now the bones are cubes, made of plastic or resin, but they still reveal things to us. As they fall from our fingers and rattle across the table, the story becomes clear. Welcome to Bone Throwers Theater, an RPG actual play podcast.
Welcome to Bone Throwers Theater for this commentary episode. My name is Aaron, and I usually play Sam Feluge.
This is Jeff, and I usually play Jerr Lan.
This is Johnny, and I occasionally play Chime North.
And this is Jeremy, usually playing Julian Illix.
And I'm Jordan, and I typically cause trouble.
Always.
So, trouble. I thought was a pretty good kickoff for the second season of the campaign.
Yeah,
I think so.
It definitely...
It wasn't nearly as emotional for Chime, which I'm okay with.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it is priming the pumps
It
to
is.
be quite emotional for Chime.
But season 1 started off like full throttle attacking Chime's emotions.
Yeah,
But it was good.
and by priming the pumps, I think Jordan started off, and then a couple of the other characters also started off, like, really pushing Chime in certain directions.
But it's mostly Katari that Chime is
Creepy predator.
doesn't like her one bit. Everybody else he's just like, yeah, okay, yeah.
Now,
And I thought it very interesting, because Julian would have picked up on it, and I think we talked about it in there, that there was at one point, while Chime is thinking now worse of Katari, Julian's impression of Katari is on the uptick.
Yeah.
Because when she said, we got some bit of intel, and then she was like, yeah, but that's coming from an elemental. And I was like, oh!
And her being a proxy as well, so she's not bought in.
Yeah, she's not, like, fully brainwashed is not the term, but
Yeah.
indoctrinated.
she
like,
hasn't drunk all of the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
She just mixes it for everybody else.
Yep.
I was just saying, speaking of Kool-Aid, I thought that was a good fight scene. As short as it lasted, the whole setup
The
in
setup for it was good.
Yes. In the basement of
Yeah, when the guy burst through the wall like the
Oh,
man.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, honestly, I do think that Katari is a true believer in the Healing Hands goal.
Yeah.
What is the Healing Hands goal?
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
And that's why Chime doesn't like her.
Because what is the goal?
Yeah.
We sort of talked
Jared
about
doesn't
this.
even know anymore.
We sort of talked about this a little bit, and this came from Jordan talking a little bit about his theories on the council. It seems like some people, and this came out in the conversation with Katari, that some people have bought in to the whole idea of the council. That it's the authority, whether you like it or not, okay, fine. But that's the way things are, that's the way things should be. It's not the best, but that's the way it is. And some people have not, obviously, are just like, the council, no.
Yeah.
All that to say, Healing Hands. They may want to use this program to do something. Fire Drakes definitely want to use this program to do something. And it came out in play that, I was like, well, why don't we just destroy it? And it's like, well, yeah, that's a viable option.
That was definitely my first thought when they were like, we got to get this program. I was like, break it.
Yeah.
Break it now.
But I think all that to say, there are some people, I think, and Julian would be one of those people, that are actually kind of indifferent towards any type of government, any type of rule. It's like the council, another country, you want to take this program,
That was part of
what's going to be the difference?
That's part of what Chime was saying to Katari is, if you're doing anything to better society, you're helping that government.
Yeah,
Because
Regardless of the government.
Yeah.
theoretically, the goal
Yes.
of the government is stability, and
Exactly.
without getting into politics.
Whether or not you're doing what the government wants, if you're helping society,
Right.
you're helping the government.
Right.
What I was saying is that there are probably a group of, or type of person that they are not going to tie themselves or align themselves with any government.
Yeah.
They are who they are. they're under the government's rule, but they're not like, oh, that's my government. This is like, nope, this is. If it were to change hands and change ways of government, oh well, so be it. I will still be here doing
We'll figure out some ways
doing my
to-
thing.
And I think that was also, like, the way Chime looks at it is, yeah, I did support the council because they're the government. Doesn't mean I like the council.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's different because you're like, destroy this thing
Mm-hmm.
that is not the current system of government.
Yes.
Whereas Julian, I think, is like, yeah, whatever. He's more focused on, well, who are the people that are instilling that government?
One of the things that I think is big for the Healing Hands in their desire for New Lock is that New Lock was created. It has a strong family tie.
And that
To
came
Redneck's
from
Mirror.
that came from the microscope
Yeah,
session.
that's all from Microscope.
Yeah, so New Lock. I was like, oh, that's familiar. Was that another campaign? Was that?
I know that I was the one that came up with that
Yes,
the
you
new
were.
lock idea, but I don't remember what I said that it was for.
Well, it's amazingly enough, I have the information right here.
I thought you.
He's the developer of AI systems New Lock, who begins developing weapons in defense of his nation.
I, for one, welcome our robot lizards.
So this is interesting from it as well. The government of North Belisara starts funding elemental terrorism to undermine Marnaline.
Ah. Yeah, so it's almost like they were intentionally undermining the robot overlords.
Were they robot overlords? Not 100% sure on that. We just know that there's some kind of artificial intelligence that is very prevalent in Marnaline.
I love the fact that we have AI but no network.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why this is so difficult to get New Lock established is because it's not like just plug it in one place and it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like you gotta establish the nodes in physical locations.
Yep.
That was kind of my desire in saying there is no lower network.
Yeah.
Right.
It's to make it more challenging for this world to build, basically.
Now, according to Microscope, Healing Hands has always been a benefit like organization, like a Red Cross type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that at this point in history, the mission statement might not necessarily reflect the end goals all the time, but I do think that they have a little bit more of a humanitarian bent to them than...
Well, yeah, but that was the idea, and then when the whole Redneck's Near thing came out, that kind of
Put a bad light on.
put a bad light on Healing
The
Hands,
Bosch on the Cabal.
and
Cabal on the Bosch.
and they went in more to like survival mode then, which is why it becomes sort of this covert organization
Yeah.
rather than a humanitarian effort, just for pure survival.
Yeah.
And it seems like in hopes to get back to that.
Yeah, so I think there was a lot of really good world building in this episode. You know, a lot of stuff happening that makes us go, well, what's going on with the motivations here? And
Yeah, especially when it came out that both the Fire Drakes and Healing Hands are after the same thing.
Yeah.
They both want to use the technology to overthrow the government, and it seems like either the council is aware of that, or there are maybe even military spies from another country that are after it. After it as well, with the whole drop the box in the Aquarel station. I thought that was a cool scene.
Yeah.
yeah, I was really going for like 1960s spy
Yes.
thriller.
Yeah.
It was good. That was definitely the feel there.
Yeah.
They had the three people walking around and then sort of whispering to each other as what they were sensing is going on. Like Julian turned around the corner, it's like air proxy.
Yeah.
And then Sam slipping off, going
And
invisible, coming back,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very spy versus spy.
Yeah.
turning around, walking away, got a shadow, handling the pistol. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very like Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
And that's a hard feel to get in the game. I'm really pleased with how that came out tonight.
I also do like the fleshing out a little bit of what Julian's sight thing is as well, because we found out that when the air proxy decided to go invisible, he couldn't see the elemental either.
Yeah, that was
Which is-
interesting.
That
Yeah.
was interesting.
Yeah.
Not a side effect of that invisibility spell that I had thought of, which is it's kind of neat.
Also, though, I remember like when Julian went invisible in the prologue episode. If I remember correctly, he went invisible, but Julian still saw.
It wasn't invisibility, it was darkness.
It was in the darkness.
It wasn't, and his sight wasn't established until the scene in the sewers
Yeah.
Yeah.
with
Right.
Jack and
Jack.
whatever the kid's name is.
Abel.
I don't know why it was Jack, but I'm picturing like the kid who can do everything.
Yeah. The time bending twins.
Abel and
Aelin.
and Aelin.
But Aelin wasn't there. It was just Choler and
Yeah, it was
Oh, Choler and Abel, and that's where you first saw the whole thing. And
Yeah.
Jack.
What's really funny is that when you described Abel coming out with all the abilities, I was like, Jack! So I knew exactly what you were talking about. And you were like, yeah, it was Jack and whoever else.
yeah,
I'm wondering, because the invisibility thing happened after Julian tried to talk to him first, and you said all he was hearing was static. I was like, that's weird.
but he also said that the elemental had military training.
That's true.
That was the exchange with
Yeah.
Shade. So now, are they trained to avoid?
Yeah, I found that interesting. It was implied that the elemental would not have been selected without the elemental being trained, is what it was implied.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like.
That is what that sounded like.
Ooh.
Which means that the elementals have a society of their own that...
Yeah, is that human
What?
training or is that elemental training?
Huh.
Yeah,
Humans training
That's a
to
good
be
question.
elementals. Elementals training.
Might be something to talk to Shade about because.
Yeah.
And does that mean that there are elementals that are not chosen to bond proxies for whatever reason? Are there free elementals?
Well, we know that there's
Well,
free
there
and wild
are
elementals that
free elementals.
are forcibly bonded, that people can forcibly bond them, and that elementals that will choose to bond with people forcibly. We know that has both happened, but are the elementals, like, is there a government amongst the elementals saying, hey, you're going to go over here and work in the
Right.
military?
A good question.
I do like also the setting reference of going back to the school.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a lot
As dark and depressing as that was,
You
that was
said that there were bodies in there, and I was like, oh, this got
Well, that's
so
what, like, when
much
you said we were
darker.
going to the school, I'm like, okay, so did they clean out the school or no? And no, they did not.
Well, yeah, I thought that's my first thought
I
is
thought
they
that
just
they had all gotten out.
they just got out and they just abandoned the
Oh,
the
see, I knew
school.
that they all got drowned.
And then when you said you open the door and there are bodies, there's one hanging in the thing, and there's watermarks all the way up the walls. I was like, oh man.
See, I knew they'd all drowned because when we left off that episode, it was water was starting to come into the room.
And they were They were
Sandbagging.
like sandbagging or something.
Well, yeah, but I mean that doesn't.
You would think that at
necessarily
some
mean-
point they would realize that they were.
But at that point, it's too late. It's already all underwater.
Like if you open the door,
Then the water just
it
comes
just
rushing in.
rushes in.
I guess that's
So-
what you get for hiding from a flood in the basement.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't know it was going to be a
Right.
flood. They knew the explosion on the outer wall,
Yeah.
Panic.
and they're close to the middle of the city, so they're not thinking,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is really going to drastically affect us." Just an explosion at the right point.
Yep.
Do you want to know what's really sad? Is that the water that came from the into the school was probably from the treatment plant, the water plants getting backed up more than anything else.
So sewer water.
Oh, which even added more to that smell.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, and then it also goes back to the first flashback episode.
Yeah,
yep.
Yep.
yeah, where
The water treatment plant.
we all got.
Well,
killed.
you kind of got that. You also kind of got that sense too, because when Jerr was at ground zero of the explosion, and then within seconds was halfway across the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my goodness, that was a
It was one heck of
huge.
an explosion.
explosion, huge water pressure.
I'm surprised
That's
there
it.
wasn't more damage than there actually was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, that with the school, that's what my question was when you go back to schools. So did the government come in and clean out all the bodies?
Obviously not.
They probably didn't have time.
Yeah. So when we say abandoned, it was abandoned by the government, not just by.
Yeah, no one even went in to find out what happened to these kids.
Do their parents even know?
Probably not.
Probably not. And it could be that some of those kids, their parents aren't even in the city.
Right.
They're just other places in North Belisara, and
They're
those
shipped
kids,
off.
yeah,
Sent to school.
in the capital.
Yeah.
I would imagine that it would be an aptitude test based type of thing.
Probably.
But I thought that was a very good tie-in.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun going through and finding the Easter eggs from the side shots and putting them in, because like the way that we recorded it, just to talk a little bit about the sausage, we recorded we recorded them like we recorded one per recording session, so we didn't sit down and record them all at once.
Right.
So like we would record it, and then we would move on to the main part of the campaign, and then we would go back and record another one, and so on and so forth. So we spent several recording sessions having to be very careful about what we said about consequences of.
And there were slips.
There were some slips.
There are some slips. There are some. It's like we started down a rabbit trail, and then we're like, oh wait, we can't talk about this. Hey, no, man, I really want to talk about this.
Yeah, but so now all of those
now we can talk about everything.
Those restrictions are off, and so we can kind of
weave these ideas back in.
Yeah.
So since all bets are off, we can talk about everything. One thing that I think could be interesting in the next session, and we talked about it off mic, is because we're heading back to the base to find Crom Delby, and we last saw the Crom Delby. Well, I mean, time has passed.
Yeah.
But the characters that surrounding Crom Delby were the action heroes investigators that we played in the second side shot. So it'd be interesting if we come across evidence of those characters.
Keystone Cops as well.
What I took from it obviously was what was in the box. That was the big Easter egg that really kicked off this season. Was like, what do I do with what was in this box? Because I just kind of threw that in.
Yeah, and you just kind of threw it in at the one shot.
Yeah,
but then you brought it back in this. I'm like, oh, box.
Well, it came back at the end of the first season.
Yeah,
when Julian found the box, and I thought that was so cool because when it actually happened, when we were playing, Jordan asked me what I found, and I just said, oh yeah, in the mattress there's this box, not realizing that there was the box that had already been established that was taken from Crom's.
Yeah.
And we had this sort of, oh my goodness, we just connected points of the story.
Well, I was flipping through my notes, and I found written in one of my notebooks that Julian has the box that Katari took.
Yeah.
You know.
And he had given the box back, and Katari didn't want to. It sounded like she was saying what it was, but it sounded like she didn't really want to say what it was.
Yeah. It was like, it was this.
And it sounded like Julian didn't believe her.
Yeah, I had written down, Julian found Delby's box in Katari's safe house.
Yeah. Oh, so you knew back then that it was...
I knew that there was something having to do with the box, but I did not establish what it was until we had the break, and I was able to sit down and put A plus B plus C together. Which might be revealing a little too much as the GM, like in terms of how things work out. But I mean, I think the other guys who have GM campaigns in the room, you can.
Well, yeah, you got your basic. What I usually had done for Shadowrun when I would GM that, you had your basic idea, and then the players will throw a wrench into it, and he's like, all right, I'm going to use that.
Yeah. It's a matter of just building off of what everybody else brings to the table.
Yeah.
More often than not. So that was fun.
I think the most difficult part of all of it is remembering the details, which is why we take notes.
It's why we take notes. It's actually why we record too.
Yes.
And it's nice because sometimes I can go in and I can look up the notes and I can see what's going on, and I can look at my old notes from sessions, and then I can also go and say, hey, can you find this detail in the audio, and we can go from there.
Like how many character points somebody has because
Yes.
they lost their character sheet.
I played for like 4 sessions without it.
Yeah. Speaking of character sheets, do you want to go through that stuff now?
We can. I think there's more to.
There's more here.
Oh, who is Crom Delby? I mean, I know who Crom Delby is, but why? So Newlock is a Marnaline system developed by Redneck's Near's father.
Mm-hmm.
Why does Crom Delby know so much about it that he's the only guy that has information on it?
Well,
I'm wondering that myself.
I'm thinking
he's actually a Marnaline spy that is in North Barrelsera.
either that or he is part of Healing Hands that may have come from Marley.
Could be a water proxy that's been.
No, I don't think. Well, because remember he was trying to be recruited.
Yes, he was. He was
So
trying to be
I think he's probably a Marnaline spy that was in the military.
So
he infiltrated the North Barrelsera military and got out and stayed over here as
something similar to like the Americans. Like he's been here for like 30 years. He grew up in North Barrelsera as a plant.
Right.
Like
The Americans was the inspiration. Yes.
I just remember he had kids.
we might find out what happened to these kids.
We never found out what happened to the kids.
But the kids were writing anti-Belisaran propaganda.
Yes, they were.
And in that episode, we established was that coming from the parents,
and
it could have been.
He claimed it because that's how we kept him. Because that was the threat. It was like either you told them to write this, or they chose to write it, and you know how that's going to end.
No. It was either you confess to the bombing.
Oh, yeah.
Or we report this.
Well, and also
that your kids are saying
yes, that's what it was.
Crom Delby appeared all the way back in the 2nd episode, or the 3rd?
When the two of you
We interviewed him
because he was
pre-explosion
a warrant officer who worked with explosives and was a specialist on GX35.
Yes.
So Crom Delby is a deep player in the game. He's a minor character who plays a major role.
Yep. That was my question.
Yeah, my other thing was you're talking about how Atari didn't want to tell us what was in the box, and it wasn't until basically until I interviewed the proxy, the fire proxy, and he thought I was Choller.
Ooh, I thought that was excellent
That
too.
was good.
When you said it's like, who's that? Your voice sounds familiar. I was like, run with it,
I knew
own it.
You know, I wasn't going to say I'm Choller. You know, I basically said Choller, that you.
Yeah.
I tried to be rough like Choller would be interrogating somebody.
I thought that was good.
I'm glad you enjoyed that.
There was one thing that it was good for our characters, but out of game I was like kind of cringing about it was how freely this guy gave up information
to a voice that sounded like Choller.
As far as you know, Choller's his boss.
Yeah, but he
was also very out of it.
He was out of it, but
He'd just been shot.
He was in
And
ice.
frozen.
Yeah,
He knows that he's.
Think about it this way: if his elemental had been more awake, he would have been more aware.
Yeah.
But his elemental is basically asleep.
And now we're talking about distinction between elemental and
person.
And how much of that is
Control.
that interdependency.
Yeah.
Like,
So, what did you guys think of what Julian was doing with
Good.
trying to separate the two?
No, I liked that. The bringing the temperature of the elemental down so far.
Well,
Or the human down so far that the elemental was basically on its own.
if you notice, before that, Julian was the one that was spearheading the movement to try and figure out how to either kill or subdue the elemental. Because he knew that, we can take out this person, but the elemental at any point could decide to flee. And there's no way to trap them. So that's why he was trying to figure out how to trap them. If he could figure out how to trap them so they couldn't leave, maybe make more of a separation before he tried to get them to disband.
I liked the air and water trick to make the ice. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Which came from Microscope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes. Yep.
Because that's how the Ice Age happened.
Yeah. Well, they made the ice and then they split it.
To split the water elemental that was trapped inside the ice.
For the communication.
For communication.
Yeah.
For the long distance communication.
And that's when Shade said it can be dispersed, or what was it?
Oh yeah, he dispersed. I think was the
Yeah.
Well, Julian already knew that, and I don't know if anybody else picked up on that, because he said that at the end of the first season when he was talking to the fire drakes underground, underneath the statue. He said something to the effect is, no, they won't reward you or whatever. They're going to kill you, and you're nothing but energy to them to be dispersed. So he already had figured it out from other elementals that he had been interrogating, that their energy is dispersed.
Okay.
But then picked up in Julian's mind, when the energy is dispersed, part of that dispersion is the power goes to the other elementals that are involved with that process or whatever. So if there was a way to not disperse the energy, but just to kill it.
Right.
Well, if you notice, that was his first question.
How do you kill it?
How do you kill it?
So you
And-
can't was the response.
Yeah. And then how to trap it. You know now what Julian was doing with the drugs.
Well, no, one of the things Julian.
That's all the things Julian was doing with the drugs.
So
And-
the cracking of the water elemental when it was frozen, that was different from dispersion.
Yes, I believe so. I think that the freezing the water elemental and cracking it was like taking a diamond and dividing it into two parts.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily changing the thing that it is, but it was creating twins, essentially.
Yeah.
And my thing is that, like for the long-term communication for the water elementals.
Almost like quantum entanglement.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's how I understood the way communication worked.
Yes.
So with that, Julian now thinks he has discovered something, a way to, well, not fully,
Yeah.
because it was a different result. He may think that the death that happened wasn't a direct result of the disbonding. It may have been the body was too far gone already, or the conditions it was in, it couldn't have survived
Right.
without the elemental anyway.
Right.
So, but it wasn't the act of disbonding that killed it.
Because so far, every time it's been disbonded, it's been a violent reaction.
Either a tree comes out of its chest, it bursts into flames. We haven't really described what happens with water or air, but just that with earth or fire, it's been violent. Like, oh, this is direct result.
And I think that the reason that it was a different result this time, and this will tip my hand a little bit, was because another elemental force was in play with the ice.
Right. Yeah. So that's what part of what he thinks he stumbled onto is the drugs were maybe helping make the separation, but it wasn't subduing the elemental enough for the elemental not to have the strength to pull the consciousness out of the person. So he's thinking the fire being frozen severely subdued the elemental to the point where it's possible to make a cleaner separation.
Right.
So that's what he thinks he stumbled onto. So he's got to find a way to counteract that elemental with another element to really put the elemental at a disadvantage.
It's complicated.
It's complicated, but it's Julian, and he's an investigator,
he
and
wants the complication.
he's going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Chime. You can't live the simple life that you want to live.
No, I can't. Really want to, but people keep dragging me deeper and deeper into trouble.
I don't know who.
Like
would do
storming the military base as a group.
that. Seems like a perfectly legit idea.
No, this is like the worst idea ever because we have no idea where we're going. We're just gonna go.
We do.
We have an idea.
We have an idea where you're going, not how to do it.
It's a big base.
It is a large base. We don't know what we're facing when we go there. We don't know any details other than Crom may be in one of these three buildings.
And if I may point out that military bases have different levels of security when different people are allowed.
Yes.
And I don't think that Chime would have had enough security to go anywhere.
Well, exactly.
Well,
I
not
knew
go
what
where
they-
anywhere, but he has
I knew
more
what-
knowledge than probably the rest of us.
Locations were. That's it.
Yeah, so this will be fun.
You know,
This will be very fun.
you can know where a building is and not have any clue what's actually inside of it.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. We got to run a prison break with zero planning.
Yeah.
This is going to work out wonderfully.
And that's what Chime was trying to say is
I mean, but
use the
honestly,
plans here.
what are our other options at this point?
Right. The next option would be we wait until day.
That seems like an even worse idea.
Right. And then so we can get more information. Would be the only thing.
Case the joint.
And that's part what Chime was trying to say to Sam is you have contacts and we know now that they were assigned to do security on the base.
Yes. We know my old unit was assigned on the installation now. Or somewhere in the city.
So you have those
I thought it was not. No,
in that
I think he said on base.
well, we did say on base.
Okay. And we also know that's weird because they're not the full guard duty.
Yeah.
You guys don't know that.
No.
I know that they're not usually the full guard duty people.
Yes. Well,
Just to
I would
guard
know
him.
that.
Delby.
Possible.
Or interrogate him.
Yes.
Possible. So, I think it's going to be fun. Like, I am really excited. Like, me is excited to see Sam and our group
Fail.
no, because I think it's going to be like such an epic, like either people dying left and not us, hopefully,
No, we're all gonna die.
or it's going to be like this incredible prison break where we're just like, that just worked out. I think it's going to be awesome
If
to watch.
at least one of us don't die, then that's a really bad military.
Or we're just that good.
Or the
Not.
GM's finger is squarely on the scale.
We're definitely not that good. We've proven that already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple of us might be.
Collectively, I think at this point, collectively, we still don't work very well together.
No, not at all.
But on our own, I think we have.
On our own, we could probably pull it off, but
No, I also think we're starting to see some of the group potential between.
It only took a whole season, guys.
Right. And the same thing. For the most part, there's still aspects that we don't know about what the characters can do. Like I love that conversation with Sam and Julian, where Julian played it off like he had no idea what happened at the park,
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
and he was trying to figure out what they knew about what
He can do.
he was doing, because he's still at the point he doesn't want people to know that he can actually kill people.
Because we don't know that. Or at least Sam doesn't know.
Yeah,
We know you can talk.
And also, no one knows really what Chime can do.
right.
Yeah.
And
that's the first time
everyone
you
was
really
shocked.
see
And
him.
that came out as a question. It's like, did you just put him to sleep?
yeah, and
He said, I guess I did.
it was weird because it could have just been that he fell unconscious from the cold,
Right.
or that he did actually say go to sleep.
No, because it was right. It was like moments, like
Yeah, right
seconds
after
after
he
he
said, "Go to sleep
said,
now."
"Go to sleep now." He just went to sleep, and it was like that's the first evidence that
Yeah. First visible evidence.
Chime can what?
Chime
Chime
is well, obviously
That
is
Chime can do
is
something.
an innate.
Right.
Yeah, you know
Well,
I'm not a proxy.
I know he's not a
you know
proxy.
he's not a proxy.
You two
Don't know anything.
You haven't said anything that you haven't given a.
Yeah. Although I've been pretty adamant about pointing out that
We are.
you are so
Yeah.
and not him. So
We can infer. But yeah, I think that we're like the characters and some of our abilities are starting to mesh as we try. I loved the interaction, me or Sam, Julian, and Katari with the where are you guys headed? Well, we were just at the police station, and then I was like, yeah, I have a contact there.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, that worked out.
that was lucky because you just picked a random spot on the map.
Right.
It was like, this place is shaded, and I have no idea why this place is shaded, but we were at this place. What is this place? The police station. I have a contact there! Oh my goodness, this is going to work!
I think that it's going to be stuff like that we start realizing that our characters
Can work together.
can really mesh in ways like that.
And I would like to say that is another key point, a reason for, like, those small little character development scenes.
Yeah.
Like, I could have just said, well, just want to get this sort of information from some police archive or whatever, and still got the same information, but now had no contact.
Right.
But now that development, that relationship was built, it can come back into play later on.
I like that.
By happenstance.
And that's where, Chime violating his house arrest really hurts him.
Because you can't go back to your therapist. And you
I can't go back to any of my contacts.
Yeah.
Right.
And then also, talking about this great, wonderful group unity, and then you have the GM sitting over here saying one of your players is lying to you.
Okay, in game, Julian is just going to blow that off. Because coming from the source,
Right.
it's an elemental,
Yeah.
he doesn't know what he can trust in the first place. And then out of game, I personally was wondering, I was like, what is that about? And knowing the only he that he could have been referring to would have been Chime. It's like, what would Chime be lying about?
Unless maybe the the elemental doesn't know that Sam's not a.
Yeah, if he thought that I was Choller.
Oh. Maybe if he thinks that you're Choller, then he's thinking that
I'm lying to you guys about who I really am.
Were you Choller? That would have been a not so.
that could be an interesting thing for what he. It might be that he has no idea what he's talking about.
I see I see the hamster running.
That's one of those things, George said, let me say this and just wait for the commentary, and then they'll fill in the gaps.
It's funny because it's true.
That's why you like these commentary episodes so much.
No, actually, you hit it on the head. Is that he thinks that the elemental thinks that Chime is lying to you about being a proxy. That he is somehow masking his ability to be a proxy.
Because when he was semi-awake, he thought I was Choller.
Whoa, I read that. I just interpreted that differently than I think you guys are. And that is a game changer. So, the way it came across to me and what you just said is that somehow
Somebody might have a way to hide.
Chime is hiding, and he's not an innate. He's actually a proxy.
That's what the Fire Drakes think.
Holy crap.
That is what, literally, legit, that's in my notes. That is what the Fire Drakes think.
If I'm a proxy, that's news to me. I can roll with it. I think given what my talent is, it's either air or water.
That's got to be uber deception. There's got to be.
Fire Drakes believe that Chime is lying about being an innate. That's what Choller told them.
Why would Choller think that Chime's a proxy?
Why? Because he's a jerk.
So I'll just leave that for you.
I have some theories, but we will leave that. Yeah,
I love that we come up with theories for our own story.
because it's in flux.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Great.
Everybody gets 10 points.
Yay!
So, best role playing.
I'm gonna go with Chime in that scene where, yes, I'm Choller, because I just think that, for one, he didn't try playing anything off, and he just rolled with the inspiration that he was given. I like that with Chime.
Jerry didn't really do anything this session.
I called people out though.
I enjoyed Jerry's
Grumpy old man.
Yes, What was it? It was early on.
He called Katari out for freaking out that they had to move locations.
It's like, you're in the healing hands. You should know about moving locations at a Jerry. That right there.
There's nothing, he just came up with that completely himself. Well, Jeff did.
Yeah. So yes, that right there for me.
That's fair.
Jeff for best role play.
The least amount of role playing tonight.
But it's not about quantity, it's about quality. Yes.
Yeah.
I was out of it tonight, man.
It's not even night.
It's not even night.
It's not even
Today, this morning.
It's 4:26 in the afternoon.
Oh my gosh.
So point goes to Fafa.
Yes.
And next we'll talk about who accomplished the most with their character. Wasn't Sam.
No, I would say Julian.
Yeah, I was going to say Julian for that one.
because
Yeah,
he got
I mean-
a step closer in his view to accomplishing one of his goals.
At least that's what he perceives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Step.
He actually now knows a little bit more of how to experiment with
Yes.
that thought.
Yeah.
Too bad he can't do it alone.
Sure, he can. He did it alone.
With the help of being frozen.
Yeah.
In Julian's mind, he did it alone.
Yeah. In Julian's mind, he did.
Well,
it alone.
I like that part in there too, because that kind of tipped the hand a little bit that Julian was heading off to do something he didn't want anybody else to know about. When he's like handed Sam the lighter and is like, "Okay, all right, I'm gonna go question." He's like, "Oh, you need some help? You want me to come along?" No, he's frozen. I got this.
And Sam's just like, okay, because Julian is already a bit of a loner, so it's not like.
Yeah, and I thought Sam was. We didn't get around to it, but I thought Sam was going to go off and like look up their his buddies, their buddies.
No, so that was initial plan was the next morning. That was what I was going to do.
Now we got a little off track.
The other thing that initially I thought Julian was going to come ask Sam why nobody was guarding the.
Yeah, I thought that was.
And Sam was going to go kill the proxy. But somebody else took care of it instead.
And then it was like, oh dear God, the proxy died.
How did this happen?
When Julian went to check if somebody was standing watch over there, and nobody was, he's like, good. Part of this was like the two of Chime and Sam were already like, why don't we just kill him? So I was like, okay, no one's going to miss him. Julian will go ahead and try and experiment on this guy. And if he dies, he dies.
Right.
No one will miss him.
Chime would be, if he knew, Chime would be furious that you let the fire elemental go.
Well, tiny steps. I got to figure out
Just because.
also how to kill them. But I can't probably do that in...
Yes, but it was a trapped fire elemental.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on. Best snack.
Pancake. Oh no. Potatoes?
Probably some potatoes, they were undercooked potatoes.
Yeah, potatoes were undercooked. That's why they're not winning in
But
that
the
book.
eggs were excellent.
The potatoes were undercooked?
Mine was.
They were a little.
Yeah,
they were a little too solid.
They were undercooked.
You may have got the one that was
I
perfect.
must have gotten them because mine was like.
Yeah, mine was a little crunchy. The egg was great.
Ham, onion, green pepper.
My vote is for the Brookie.
The Brookie.
Yes.
That was
The
pretty,
brownie cookie.
That was pretty
Pretty
boss.
good. It's good.
As much as I enjoyed my pancakes,
Yeah.
that
I think I had
brownie
like
cookie.
I have to go with that.
4 or 5 squares of that.
I had one and it was good.
It was really good.
I did get to try it. I was a bad boy and I tried everything. I had one Dunkin' Munchkin. I had one slice of that. I slowly ate a fritter, which I really liked the fritters. They were
Yeah, they were
I
good.
love fritters. I tell myself they're healthy because they have apples.
If my bariatric surgeon listens to this, she would go, Jordan, I can't believe that you ate all that sugar. And I'm like, it was a great day. I also like the popcorn chips. Those are
those were good.
Yeah.
surprisingly really good.
Yeah, they are.
The
I
popcorn.
didn't try those.
They're.
They're right there. You can try them.
Let me try one.
Are those good?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I don't think they're like healthy
No.
still, but
Oh,
they're
no, not at all.
healthier than potato chips.
Yeah, the healthier the potato chips.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
sounds like we're voting for the Brookie.
The Brookie.
Yeah, the Brookie.
Brookie.
Aaron gets that point.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for playing, and everybody out there in podcast land, thank you so much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this first episode run of the second season. One of the things that we've tried to do with Elements of War in general is push role-playing for us and experiment with the form. And I think that this is a really great way that we're doing that. So we're really excited for things that are coming.
Yeah.
So just keep an ear to the ground and see what comes up. Talk to you all later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Bone Throwers Theater. Our cast is Aaron, Jeff, Jeremy, Johnny, and Jordan. We are releasing this podcast under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 3.0 Unported license. That means that you can share the podcast, but please do not modify it or try to gain financially from it. If you would like to visit our website, you can do so at bonethrowerstheater.com. If you would like to send us an email, you can do so at bonethrowerstheater@gmail.com. Our Twitter handle is @bonethrowerstheater, and also you can look us up on Facebook. And until next time, may the bones fall ever in your favor. This has been a Nerd Circle podcast production.